Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to a moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up in just a few minutes in our Trailblazers segment brought to us by Bice Cucina. Today we're joined by my dear friend, Madison Malloy, author, speaker, and podcast host. Now, from minimizing financial risks on Wall Street to crafting risque jokes for crowds in New York City's most prominent comedy clubs, Madison's journey through adulthood has been one for the books, to say the least. Well, at least one book specifically. Time to lighten the F up. It's a self-help guide with a side of humor. Today, we're chatting about the pros and cons of living and moving to New York City. Now, of course, we all know that there's no adequate way to describe the way living in New York City feels. In fact, the Big Apple casts both shadows and spells, and your experience will truly depend entirely on pretty much you. There's no denying that living in the Big Apple is an extraordinary feat, any way you slice it. Now, the city tempts people in hordes, and millions of residents are willing to overlook the inevitable cons of life in New York City because the pros are too hard to resist. New York City is home to 65 Fortune 500 companies, the second highest concentration of Fortune 500 companies in the world. That's outside of Tokyo. Welcoming now to the show to chop it up and chat New York City and, of course, summer in the city is the stunning Madison Malloy. So nice to have you in studio, my beautiful friend.
I'm so excited to be here. I love this topic, too, because I was somebody who left the city, and now I'm back.
And now you're back. So, okay, let's dive right in. So where are you from originally, and what brings you back to New York City?
So originally from Colorado, came here for my first job on Wall Street in summer of 2005 and loved it. Never thought I would leave. And COVID hit and it became almost unlivable. So I escaped back. I put stuff in a storage unit and went back to Colorado where I grew up and been kind of back and forth. And now I've come back, but just for 5.5 months to avoid the taxes.
Oh, very smart. Only you, my darling Madison, would figure out that staying short of that 6-month mark, which brings us right about till December, is going to avoid those taxes.
Yep.
Only you. Now, let's chat the pros of living in New York City first, outside of this 6-month mark tax benefit. New York City is truly the land of opportunity. So if you can make it here, as you know, you can make it anywhere. New York City is where dreamers go to make their dreams come true. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the opportunities and the connections are endless, right? There's so many industries in here where you can thrive and grow. And I think that's why people come here and live in very dire conditions to have an opportunity to make it big, whether it's Broadway or Wall Street or whatever they choose to do. So it's an amazing place for that, but it does come with a lot of downsides too. But the upside is the unlimited career potential. But like anything, it's all what you make of it.
Of course, all what you make of it. And when you say the dire conditions, you're talking about living in a 300 square foot apartment and where you're paying, I don't know, maybe $2,000 a month for that. It's literally a broom closet. And we've all done it. We've all done it. Now, in my experience, this is true in two ways in terms of, the Big Apple allows you to pave your dreams and really come full circle into your own. Now, if you're an entrepreneur, there's truly no better place than New York City to try and make it big, essentially. The opportunities and, to your point, the networking connections you can make living in the city are really hard to beat. Career-wise, the city has the biggest names in tech, in marketing, in apparel, journalism, sports, you name it. It goes on and on. So if you can't follow your dreams yet, there's definitely a job for you. But what I would say in New York City, I highly suggest having a gig lined up before moving to the city. Otherwise, you won't be setting yourself up for success per se, and securing a job and keeping it is going to require a lot of effort, more effort than it does in small cities, which is why New Yorkers are often considered Workaholics. We are workaholics. Bringing me to number 2. New York City is a safe place to live for workaholics. Now, it may surprise you to learn that living in New York City is not actually unsafe. We're going to get to it in just a second by you piping in here. But as most folks assume, I would say it's hard to blame anyone for thinking that life in New York City could be dangerous. With their 8.5 million residents, I think the city is the most populous city in America at this point. And things are bound to happen when you have this many people. What has your experience been so far when it comes to safety?
So when I was here a long time ago, I thought it was the safest big city. I would never have walked around Denver at night by myself, but I had no problem doing it in New York. COVID changed things a little bit, actually a lot. So my view is a little bit different. I won't jump on a subway if it's past 10 o'clock.
Same.
Before, I would. You know, I didn't even think about it. I never carried pepper spray, but
Same.
now I've
Now
got
I
that.
do. But I would do that regardless of where I am.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's, you just know the areas to kind of avoid, but you can't live your life in fear. So you got to just step into faith and don't manifest it, really.
Wise words of an entrepreneur. You can't live your life in fear. You have to manifest it. And again, if you're going to a big city, I don't care if it's New York City, Chicago, California, anywhere, you carry pepper spray, you equip yourself. If you know that you're going to be out late at night, you're going to make sure that you mitigate the dangers around you by preparing yourself. Now, relative to its size, New York City is considered one of the top 5 safest, largest cities in America, actually and statistically, which is mind-boggling to me. But
Wow.
but after living in New York City for almost 16 years at this point, I can honestly say that I've never felt unsafe in the city for the most part. And that's mostly because I've never really been alone on the streets. I mean, you can go into Times Square at any point in time, and there's always security around and someone around. So for the most part, New York City is safe, but to your point, I cut it off after 10, 11 o'clock at night. Like anywhere, I wouldn't ride the subway alone as a woman. Now, New York City is home to a whopping 83 museums, including the 5th largest museum in the world, which is the Metropolitan Museum of Art, otherwise known as the Met. And it's also home to one of the most gorgeous libraries in the world, the New York Public Library, which is also the 3rd largest library in the world. Madison, why are cultural experiences and a very accessible art scene important to you?
Well, I think it's important to, embrace like cultures and learn about history and appreciate the arts and what they are. I don't attend many art museums. I got to be honest with you. I feel after you just dropped that statistic, I need to get my butt to more of them.
You do.
I think I've walked into the MoMA to use the bathroom. Somehow I got in and
Oh my God, I love you. Stop it right now. You need to get your butt to the MoMA for the actual art. What are you doing, girl?
I know. And I appreciate art. It's great. I was a big fan of Thomas Kincaid. I know he's not super famous, but I felt like I could get lost in his paintings, and I will look at his paintings and be like, that's the type of house I want to build one day.
Well, listen. Okay, fine. So you're not the museum girl. Question out the door. What
History
about
museum, but not art museum.
Okay, let's go to networking and social scene. So in fact, I'm going to punt one that you already are at the forefront. New York City is home to more billionaires than anywhere else in the world. It speaks your language. So before being surpassed by Beijing not long ago, we are in fact home to more billionaires than anywhere else. And since everyone is hustling hard to get their piece of the pie, you will make some serious connections while living in New York City, without a doubt. How important is networking and socializing for you and for your business?
Well, they always say your network is your net worth, and it is so important who you surround yourself with is the type of life you're going to have. So you want to surround yourself with people that are doing amazing things if that's what you aim to do. So I didn't know there were so many billionaires here, though. I feel like we need to go out more so we can find me one of them.
are so funny. We will go. I will take you. You know what? In fact, Bice Cucina has a lot of billionaires that hang out there.
Do they? Well, Peter has failed to introduce me to any of them, so we'll have to speak with him.
That's because he wants to keep you close to the ecosystem. If he gives you away too soon, then you're not going to go back.
This is true. Maybe. We'll see. We'll have to ask him.
We'll have to ask him. Well, since this segment is sponsored by Bice Cucina, and we're talking about networking and socializing, and we know that Peter is quite the celebrity himself, the food in New York City is incredible. We can't talk about the pros of moving to New York City without mentioning the food, Madison. So, oh my goodness, if there's one thing I love most about living in this city, it's the incredible food scene. I'm such a foodie. I'm Greek by nature, so, I eat with my eyes. Bice Cucina, top favorite Italian restaurant. What do you say to this?
Absolutely. Their octopus is unbelievable. But you were talking about cuisines in New York. It's most unbelievable food. Bice is my favorite Italian restaurant for sure. But what I also love about having a city with unlimited amazing cuisine is that everybody's walking everywhere, so you don't put on the pounds as fast.
That's so true. You leave a meal and instead of like having the Uber meet you at the door, you're like, let's just walk 30 minutes because I don't feel good to get in a car, right? And you do it. You walk and then 30 turns into an hour and then you've walked that meal off. And that's the beauty of living in New York City. That's why everybody in the city is kind of like looking good these days. Everyone has like a really hot body, like and they're all like doing their makeup and men are taking care of themselves. And the scene in New York City is like next to none. Like we're like, it's like even Dubai. Dubai is like hot right now, but like these are the cities that make it happen. There's a lot of wealth here and there's a lot of richness here. At the same time, there's a lot of culture and people are proud regardless of how much money they have in their pocket. Now let's talk about the cons. Okay, we have 3 minutes left. I went down to the wire here. So honestly, the rent is damn high, let's be honest. Living in New York City is not realistic for a lot of people because of the astronomical cost of housing. And New York City is not even in the same time zone as affordable.
Yeah.
What are your tips here to get affordable?
Well, I was just having this conversation with somebody last night. I said, in order to really live a good, healthy life in New York City, you got to make at least $5 million a year. So, yeah, the costs are absolutely crazy, but you just have to make sure it's worth it. What are you making? Make sure you're not spending all your income just on living because you need to save to be able to escape the rat race, the matrix, whatever the heck we're living in. But yeah, the cons are that is absolutely expensive. I mean, people spend like $30,000+ to send their kid to kindergarten.
Oh my God!
Why don't you pay me $30,000?
You just called me out. Alexa went to American preschools, to IPS, International Preschools, on 86th Street. Dude, this thing cost me like $20,000 a year. I was like, what am I doing? And then I moved to Jersey. I was like, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, public school's free. I went to public school. It's great, but I can't believe that people are spending that. But you know what? Good for them. But I also did hear that most people would determine where their child is going to go to school in New York City based on other children that are there because they use it to network.
Actually, that's so true, too. Let me tell you about the PTA at some of these schools. Okay, well, that's a different conversation. Now, of course, if you look at the overall view, New York City is the 7th most expensive city in the world. And when you go one step further, you would have to admit that New Yorkers are blunt. They don't sugarcoat anything. We're very direct because we don't waste time. You can tell this by how fast we walk everywhere, right?
Yeah.
New Yorkers weren't raised by Southern mothers. Forget manners, enter brevity. They have places to be and they have people to see. So they are very fast paced. Now, if you live in New York City, prepared to be labeled as a workaholic, there's no way around this. New York City is a hard working city. 40-hour work weeks. That sounds like a distant dream. What kind of hours do you work? I know I hover at least 80.
Yeah, I don't even know that number. I just feel like I actually am on a path where I love what I do, and so I feel like I'm kind of always working, but it doesn't feel like work.
Because you love what you do.
Yeah, I'm not going into a corporate office clocking my hours anymore. Those days are done. So I just feel like I'm always somehow working with all my different stuff going around. But yeah, it is a place where people are consistently working because they have to, because it's so expensive.
But at the same time, it's not like you turn it off and you're like, I'm just going to turn it off for the next couple of days. Like, you can't afford to do that. You have a fast-paced life, you have a business, you have entities, you have people, you have brands, you're an author, you're a public figure, you work. And even if it doesn't feel like work, it's still hours that you're mentally putting in towards a goal that has nothing to do with just
Yeah,
you sitting at home and kicking your legs up. But because you're so intertwined with your passion, and your passion is your work, it kind of meshes into one. Let me tell you,
yeah,
if you break it down, you're probably hovering upwards of 80 hours between posts, between social media, between research, between reaching out to brands and whatnot. So
for
you
sure.
work it. It's not like you put it down and you're like, okay, 5 o'clock, time's up, no more work.
Yeah.
That's never gonna happen.
Well, I do know how to do a balance, which is good. So if I need to take time like on weekends to just do nothing, you're always kind of checking in. I will do that because I think that life is a balance. And in order to be so great at what you do, you've got to recharge your batteries. So that is so important. You can't just run yourself ragged all the time.
That's great advice. That's why we have you. That's why we keep you around, Maddie, because you
Oh,
just kind of
thanks.
bring the calmness here. Because even on the weekends, dude, I'm working. But yes, the weekends should be sacred space. Even God
Yeah,
rests on Sunday. Now,
exactly.
when can we expect your next book to be released?
It'll be either late this summer or early fall. And I'm very excited. It's a fictional book series. I can't say too much about it right now, but I will be back, hopefully, if Zen will have me,
I will have
to
you.
talk about the book and the movement behind the book, the fictional series. So the first 2 books are coming out at that point. So I'm very excited. And then I'm going to be doing another personal development book as well in the future. So look out for that. But in the meantime, purchase Time to Lighten the F Up.
Amazing. Okay, Madison, that was incredible. Thank you so much for coming on. That's the end, but
Thank you.
it has been a pleasure chatting with you, and you are so full of insight, and you're funny.
Oh, well, thanks. I try.
Guys, you definitely have to check out the incredible Madison Malloy. Now, listen, moving to New York City is both a fascinating and at times overwhelming endeavor. So give yourself some grace while you work out the details. If hopefully I found if I find, and I will say this, a fascinating article that covers the best time to New York City, I will post it directly onto my 24-hour story. I haven't found one yet, but I'm telling you, neighborhood determines how much you pay for rent, how far you need to walk to your favorite spots, how long you commute. All of this is part and parcel. With average rents clocking in at $3,000 per month, I can't stress the importance of getting a feel for what your daily life will actually look like before you move to the city. So come and explore. The summertime is a great time to do that. That was Madison Malloy, author, producer, podcast host, public speaker. You can check her out at Real Madison Malloy, or you can head directly to madisonmalloy.com. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.